So we've built a silly little machine that builds some stacks of cubes and stacks of spheres. Now it would be smarter to make an object maker that could either make spheres or cubes by specifying the type, and that's what we've done here. What if you want to reuse this a couple of different times? Well, the way that we're going to do that is with something called instancing, where we can take a node and control I, or instance, and it makes an instance of that node. Now, I want you to notice that there is a difference in how this is drawn. So the original object maker node, all of these are local attributes, meaning that they can be edited right here. And in the object maker instance, notice that the instance path got updated as well. All of these attributes are grayed out. They're not local. What this is going to do is, let me rewire this here for a second. And I'll break that connection there. So now the object maker is being instanced over into this object maker 2, which we'll just call cubes. Okay. So if I change something on the source node, like the count, and we change this to like 3, we'll see that that will flow into this other node. Now, if I overload this or localize this attribute and change it to 6 right here, then that's the number of objects that will be made. Now, if I break the instance connection right here, all that will be left on this cubes node is my count. If I remake the instance by just typing the path into here, the object maker, you'll see that I'll get all of those other attributes back along with my code that came from the object maker. This is so incredibly powerful. So let's just run this to see where we're at. We'll execute from selected, and we'll zip back in here, and I will revert this attribute, and we'll run it again. And now it's only made 3 cubes. Now what if we want to make spheres? So I will make a new node, and this time I'm going to do it just a little bit differently. Just point it to the instance. I'll point it over to object maker. This time I'm going to overload offset, so it's building it next to it. We'll execute this. And now you can see, well, I've got 2 stacks of cubes because I need to overload the type here and tell it that I want it to make a sphere. Okay. So now I'll execute that and over in Maya. We have a node that can be instanced over and then have values overridden on it. Now, of course, we could combine instances with hierarchy. So I'm just going to rebuild this hierarchy a little bit here. And now it's going to build cubes. And it will build spheres. Spheres. I like it. It'll rebuild cubes and spheres as well. So I can execute from selected. And I can overload the count on either one of these things. So 10 spheres with a spacing of 5. And it will build them. Now, what's most powerful about this is the ability to come back into the original object maker, change the code or change the initial sort of prototype for the nodes that you're instancing. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to add a new Z offset. We'll put this as a default of 0. Now my Z offset is in here. And on this fees, I can change my Z offset. Great. So now we can see that I've got a Z offset on this where it's been pushed back in space. And I'm sure the thing that you're all wondering is, can I have instances of instances where I keep the type and just change one other thing? Well, yes, you can. So now I've got an instance of an instance, and in this case, I'm going to offset it 5 units in the other direction. So now I've got 2 copies of that stack builder. And let's say that I want to swap out the cubes for spheres. That's as simple as coming in here and overloading the type. And on this one, I'll make sure that the type is a cube. So even though the names don't match at this point, I should have a stack of spheres and 2 stacks of cubes. I hope that some of the potential of this is starting to show up and to see how you can build custom components and reuse them and overload them in really clever and interesting ways.